All right, we are so excited to have a special guest today, David Gilliland with Elite Entrepreneurs. And you have seen the email that I have sent introducing David and Elite Entrepreneurs to the Crown Council, one of our newest and trusted Crown Council resource partners. And today we are going to provide a more in-depth uh, conversations with some Q&A on Elite Entrepreneurs, what they provide for the Crown Council, how to get involved. And so we're really excited to share this on our website and with all of our Crown Council members. So thanks for joining us, David.
I'm delighted to be here.
David, we would love to know the background and the history of Elite and how it not only got started, but just more about what the business provides as a whole.
Well, great. I'm glad to. So Elite Entrepreneurs actually came out originally from a need that a company called Infusionsoft had. So Infusionsoft is one of these software companies, right, that grows enormously big rather quickly. Well, when they were in the seven-figure business size, they were about 6 million. They were running into some challenges, and they pulled in my brother, Brett Gilliland, to go and work with them. At that time, I was consulting in my work, and he was consulting in his, and they pulled him internally. And he and Clayton Mass began to build a process to allow them to actually grow and scale and not lose their minds. So how to have peace of mind as they grew. Because the reality is as you hit in that seven-figure business phase, about 1 million, you got to shift gears and do some other things to get to 3 million and change the way you lead. You have to do it again to get up into the 10 million. You have to do it again to get to 30 million and again to 100 million. It just keeps happening. Okay. Well, in getting this down and figuring out the people, systems, and processes, they built such a good system that back in 2012, they said, hey, this is really rolling well. Let's share this with all of our customers. So internal Infusionsoft customers, they serve small businesses, and they began to serve that to them. Great offering. People loved it, rave about it, and they all grew their businesses being part of it. Yeah, so about 2 years ago, we decided, let's not hold this just to Infusionsoft customers, but let's roll this out. So we rolled a business out 2 years ago. My brother left Infusionsoft, and with Clayton Mass still serving on the board, he's been running that. And I joined forces with him this year as we continue to grow and pivot and shift, just like the rest of us during COVID, but have some great success as we move forward and help businesses still grow and keep the peace of mind they want.
Man, a great intro there, David. And we're excited for you to share with us throughout today how that can benefit the Crown Council members. We have, a variety of practices from coming out of dental school to those that what we consider the back nine, have likely 5 years left in practice. So, talk to us about how Elite Entrepreneurs can work with and help our practices.
All right. So as you think again about this section, and we'll talk about those who have a practice that are approaching 1 million in revenue. You can be and stay at that place. The new guy coming out of school, sure, he's or she's working in that, and they're starting practice up, and they're hoping to get 600,000, then 700,000, finally cover their costs, right? and they're kind of getting to that phase. Very critical spot. They're right now figuring out, how do I offer something and a customer experience that they really appreciate and they keep coming back for more, right? Great service we offer and a good environment. Well, as they're figuring that out, they start to realize, hey, I've got team members, and this management thing is a little different. Dental school wasn't about management. And I've got to figure this out. And you are, right? You, the small practice owner, you are figuring it out. You're doing a great job. As you start to get to 1 million, you start to have all the pieces in place. You've got another dentist maybe there in the office working with you. You've got several hygienists. You've got your office staff. If they're not all on the same page, you might start to love your practice a little less. It might feel like the time pressures are huge. You're delivering all day. And then in the evenings, you're trying to run a business. You thought you had Fridays off or Mondays off, but really, no, you don't. You're working your tail off on those days doing work you didn't even like. So, and that's kind of what happens sometimes as it gets so complex. Well, Crown Councils are doing a great job in helping people get to and be at that million and serving others as they grow. And I love that. What we do is specifically help you see, how do you get those people to ensure they're helping you make it great there for you and for them and for your customers. And if you have ambition to grow a little more, open another practice, acquire another practice somewhere, whatever it looks like, and perhaps become the practice owner instead of operator, there are changes in how you lead and organize and what you do with your time. And you have to say goodbye to some old things, and you've got to learn some new things. We can teach you those. We help you learn the mindset, the skill set, and the tool sets will help you succeed. And that's a lot of fun. So I've helped the new practice, the guy who just got out of the military. He'd been serving there, right? Paying off his dental debts. He got through that. He finally bought his own practice. It was hard, right? Yeah. Previous practice owner was still in the middle of it. And people looked to him instead of to the new owner, right? It was just back and forth and not knowing what to do. Well, when we taught him some basics of clear vision and how to organize his people around those and how to lead by values instead of just by the numbers, it made all the difference for him. His profits went up, his happiness went up, and he sees that group as a family. He's now looking at opening his next practice. It's fun to kind of watch that happen. That's the sort of thing we do. And there's another shift at that 3 million. When you've got 2-3 practices going and you're thinking of broadening it even more, there's another shift in how you lead. There's new kinds of work that nobody's teaching you, but we're glad to help share those with you and introduce you to other business owners who are also doing that to learn from them. And that's the kind of work we do. Yeah,
man, that is a fantastic explanation and something so needed right now, David, especially, and you mentioned that a lot of it has to do with how we work with our team members, and nobody would argue that today's newer team members are different than the team members that have been working in a practice for 15 years, right? So you, outside of the just dentists themselves, the team members and that are coming out of school and going into either hygiene or office management have a different mindset. And sometimes it can collide with perhaps the way that the dentist has or would prefer to manage. And so I think that the tool set that it would be provided is so relevant to how much just team members have changed today. And so on that note, David, share with us what you hear the most from your clients, what you're seeing in the industry right now. This has been one of the most interesting years in business, in owning a business. What are you hearing? And then the follow-up to that would be, and therefore, what would you recommend based on the feedback you're giving on everything you're hearing in the industry now?
Okay. Well, if it's okay, I'm going to take two different things I heard you talk about.
Yeah.
One had to do with these. Let's talk about the new generation, because that is a big thing. I hear a lot about that, and we see it and we help them work through. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, the other one, what do we do with this COVID thing or any large outside event that affects our business, right? And so those are some hot topics. With the team members, it has been a real honor and privilege to see this new generation come in and the kinds of insights and value they can add to the business. They can do amazing things. Plus, they represent your new customers very well. And so there's a really interesting mix in there. But one of the big things we found is that a lot of companies, a lot of practices out there, other companies too, but a lot of practices, if they're sharing high level goals with their team. So if they're having those meetings and saying, here's what we're about this year, here's what we're going to go and achieve, most of them have only been talking about business metrics, right? And so it may have to do with revenue. It may have to do with, vacant time in a chair, or, it may have to do with how fast we can move people through. It may have to do even with something a little more meaningful in this customer satisfaction, some sort of survey thing. But generally, that's the big number they're talking about. That does not excite this new generation.
Yep.
And yet we know it's important to keep the practice alive.
Yep.
And so the work that we have done and that we have seen work for years, this isn't new, but the re-emphasis in this has made a huge difference. We've seen the new generation grab it, run with it, and work harder than you can imagine, put their hearts into it. Let's have a mission that is aligned with purpose, something that's so meaningful. What's the impact we're going to have? One dental practice, it was all about relief. All they wanted to provide was for people who came in anxious to leave saying, I love that. Thank you so much, right? You eased my anxiety. They were looking for a measurement of reduced anxiety. That's all they cared about, which was kind of funny, but I like to say, let's build something positive. But it worked for that practice. They were looking for that. That was the win. And they would all watch, and they would watch and see, did the patient leave happier than they arrived? And everyone was watching it. And they would ask, and they had a button up front. Am I happier now that I'm leaving than when I first got here, right? And the person could hit the button and everyone would celebrate, and they would mark this. Well, as that became the thing, what are we doing? We're relieving anxiety in the world in our little corner. And that's what they were focused on. And they started to push to say, we want to do more than we did before. We want them happier than we were before. So they started doing tighter metrics, something like that. And I'm not saying that's the metric. That was theirs. That wouldn't have been mine. But I still think it worked great for them because the whole team got behind it. Everyone came to work and said, today, I'm going to make someone happier. I'm going to relieve a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of stress in their lives. They're going to leave a happier person. And that drove office people, that drove hygienists, that drove the other dentist. He loved it too, right? And so anyway, that's one side I would say. That's something I'm seeing a lot of. We need to have purpose beyond profits. And when we have purpose beyond profits in a measurable way, then the team helped to co-create with you, you've got something. You'll tap into that new talent. And you let every new hire or anyone who's looking for it, this is what we care most about. And if they think that's just a bunch of hogwash, don't hire them. Okay. So that's one side. This other side of it, was that enough on that one?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's really good.
Okay. So as we look at COVID, this is an unfair outside event, just like all outside events are.
Yeah.
So I've got 60% of my client base are doing as well or better easily. I mean, this COVID event's been good for them. Government gave them a bunch of money. They just socked away. Not our practices, right? These practices, they all suffered. We all lost a month or two of good revenue as we struggled. Okay, so let's talk about this other 40%. Those in the services industry, those that were close contact have all suffered a lot. And so at the beginning of this, and we're in the same boat. We're a services type of company, right? This is what we do. We're there to teach and train. Wait, you think training stayed on the top of people's lists?
Right.
A lot of them cut it out, right? We saw our own revenues drop nearly in half within that first month. It's a tough spot.
Yeah.
Especially because we had ambitious goals for the end of the year. So we had to do what we recommend and work with our clients on, which is it's time to regroup and pivot. I know we've done something a certain way for a long time and it's always worked for us. It's been a great formula. But today, there are still needs that people still need to have filled. And by the way, there's a lot of money out there too that people want to invest in filling those needs.
Yeah.
So what are we uniquely good at doing? How can we fill those needs? Can we change who we are right now to meet those needs? Maybe it's temporary. For instance, my client, who's a caterer, lost 95% of his business by government mandate. That's tough.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a tough spot to be in.
Yep. Yeah.
They took a strength that they have, which happens to be they had a supply chain of food that was different than the grocery stores. So while the grocery stores were out of so many things, he had full access. The only difference is it came in containers and packages that no one could possibly use. But he had a team. So they ordered the food, they repackaged it, they set up delivery to people's homes, and they even made a mark that people could provide food for those in need. Okay. Add an extra little bit of dollars. So they charged a premium for this service and gave a chance for people to give to those who didn't have. And then they would go and deliver food to these people who didn't have. And he pivoted everything. And until the grocery stores got caught up, they were able to stay profitable, not great profits, but profitable in their business and keep his team. He's pivoting again because grocery stores caught up, right? Tough time for some of these companies. We can do the same thing in the dentist industry, right? We can pivot, we can look at things, we can work in ways we hadn't worked before. And so many have, right? All of a sudden, I guess we all work 5 days, maybe 6, right? We're figuring things out. We've got to give a little more space. That's okay. All right, we've learned new practices. Okay, don't use the water jet anymore. We're going to have you swish a little bit more. We're going to scrape a little more. That's fine. It may take a little more time, but we're going to keep the patients happy. And then what else can we do? Is there anything else, right? And don't try to do it alone. Use your team. The best teams have pivoted because all of them together worked on how are we going to, and I'm going to use the other example again, how are we going to relieve anxiety today? Given the anxiety that's there, what could we do to help today? Let's still serve our purpose, even if the path right now is bumpy. So for lead entrepreneurs, we had to shift. We now have online. We were all in person, everything. Now we've got an online offering, which funny enough, opened up the gates and people are coming through faster than they've ever come before. We've now made up everything from COVID and we're about to hit our annual goals that we'd set pre-COVID. We thought we may need to adjust. But we don't. We found a new way. We're delivering it in a way. We're put payment plans differently. And all of a sudden, every month, people are coming through. The business owners are seeing we still need to develop and build our teams and build our practice, build our businesses. They're improving and it's working. We had to pivot too, right? It was uncomfortable at first, but we're pivoting and it's made all the difference for our business. And we're seeing the same with our customers.
That's great. I think everyone would love to spend an hour talking about what motivates the new generation. One area that you brought up there, David, which is on the top of everybody's mind today. So I'm glad that you addressed that and can provide that answer. We're going to keep that as another segment for our viewers and listeners to learn how to motivate the new generation. Speaking of the new generation, what can I do today, David? I'm listening to this today and I'm thinking to myself, well, COVID has maybe even set me back a little bit, and that's because I was a new young dentist and I'm like, man, that kind of set me back a year, or I was hoping to do something like this with elite entrepreneurs, taking me to the next level, but I'm not quite there yet. So what are some steps that we can be sharing with our practices that at least help us to get prepared for moving in the right direction?
Okay. Now, one of the keys will be to set aside time to work on the practice. And I don't just mean doing the billing. That's not working on the practice. That's in it. And I don't mean those kinds of things that aren't dentistry work, but are administrative. But to take time to work on the practice and make it sacred time, or cannot be touched, set apart time. That time is just critical. If you don't know how to use the time, start by just taking time to breathe and think. Why did I get into dentistry? What's my big drive, my why? How am I serving that, right? So start thinking of your own purpose to begin with. But just the habit of taking time to work on your business on a regular basis will be very key. One dentist, he just set aside Friday mornings. It was only 2 hours. It was from 8 to 10. But 8 to 10 Friday morning, his door was shut. He was still there to practice, but everyone knew you can't even knock on his door.
Yeah.
We have another dentist here. He'll take care of things. Don't even knock on his door. Well, he began to build out vision and think through a little bigger picture. And I recommended he looked at Jim Collins' book. It's called Beyond Entrepreneurship. The new release just came out 3 days ago, December 1st. So look at B 2.0.
Yep.
Dive into that a little bit. That's a good place to start. Think about your core values, your purpose, your mission. Just think about those things. Write some of those things out and say, do these things matter? Am I still heading this way? You'll find it gives you energy and creativity. Make sure every time you start first recognizing in a spirit of gratitude, some kind of positive focus of something great that happened that week. Just think through that. If you have someone else to bounce ideas with, great. If you don't, do it alone. I don't care. Have that moment. Begin positive, think through that bigger picture, and then start thinking, how would I get there? But if you're just thinking about the bigger picture, you take a couple hours thinking about planning new things, scheming a little bit in your mind, that's going to get you on a path to make wiser decisions instead of just respond to crises today. So I think that's a good start for people that are there. If I hit a second one, we hate it when people leave our office, but it is a huge opportunity. Every time someone leaves, you've got to replace them. So now that you've thought about some of these values and purpose just a little bit, you find people who fit that, work really hard, take the time. I don't care if their skills aren't the best yet. You can help them get their skills up. First, get that fit just right. Each new good hire will push your practice forward. That's the number one factor of a good practice. It is not how good my technology is running. It's how good my people are. They'll help everything else run right. They'll get the right technology in place. They'll use it right. Every good hire grows your practice. So I think those two things. Spend the time to find the right hire.
Man, that's so good. And a good recommendation on a great book as well for a starting place. Jim Collins and a great author that I would recommend as well. And I think that setting aside that time, I've always referred to it as compass time to, in a sense, kind of prepare where I'm going in that next week. And when you do that week after week, I have found what you've stated to be really true and in directional in business. So David, as we start to kind of come in for a landing here, we want to know that, okay, I'm a Crown Council member this and Elite is a new resource partner. What do I get? How do I touch base and where do I go from here? I'm interested. What's the benefit being a Crown Council member working with David?
Oh, great. We'll have there, of course, with this video, some links you're going to be able to link to and get to the website and see. But we'll put together a special offer just for Crown Council. We have something that we call Elite Ignition. It's the entry point. It gives you the big high level view, and you'll learn more than just this once a week thinking. You'll learn what needs to happen monthly, the types of questions on a quarterly basis, how you run an annual planning session that really drives performance. Well, we're going to walk through all of these things, and the outline of it, we cover all in Elite Ignition. It used to be a $10,000 offering, and people would come in person and spend 2 days doing it. And we grew our business off that. That was just the start. Well, COVID got us to change, think differently, be a little more nimble. Now we have an offering that you can do online from your office. You just have to take the 2 hours once a week for a month. So 4 weeks, 2 hours a week. In between, there'll be a coaching opportunity to work with someone to help implement. But you got those 2 hours a week. You can have as many of your team members that you feel belong there attending. So this is great. No travel costs, right? Lower cost too to get in. It's only a $3,000 cost to do this work. For Crown Council, we'll take off another $500. We're delighted to be part of this council. We're so excited to help you, the dental practices, take better care of all the people in our community. So you make a difference, and we're glad to be a part of it. So we'll offer that right now. We'll give you a discount to come on in. If you really like what you're doing through the process and you love the Elite Ignition, which we have a phenomenal success rate of people who move on to the next level offering that really helps them change behaviors and move. We call it Elite Momentum. Then we'll help you roll the rest of, like, you have a few $100 you'll pay for that piece, but the rest of the cost, we'll just roll it right in. You can step into the next level membership and use almost all 2,700 of this to pay for the next one going right through. So that's what we're doing for Crown Council. We really want to see you guys there. We really want to help the dental practices succeed. We're excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's just great, David. We look forward to that as well. We look forward to, we foster a culture of success here in the Crown Council. We know that with this addition, the additional training, it will continue to foster and drive that success. And we look forward to our members working with your team and hearing more from you in the future. So David, thanks so much for sharing today. Thanks for your time, your wisdom, your thoughts. And we look forward to posting this and providing all this information for our listeners and viewers today.
Thanks so much, Spencer.
Thank you, David.